From a economic perspective, agriculture is challenged as we speak now, especially in this year with the monsoons getting delayed and with the heat wave coming in. So there will be an impact on agricultural produce. As you rightly said, agriculture supports 60% of this population in India in terms of livelihood, and it supports 100% of the population in terms of food security. So it will be very difficult for any other part of the world to feed 16% of the global population, which is represented by India. So India needs to ensure that we've got food security, and in which agriculture plays a very critical role. Also, in addition, if agriculture grows, the overall GDP also grows. And there are multiple factors that happen from the rural side once agriculture grows, because that leads to the two-wheeler being grown and the consumption going up, FMCG consumption going up, which then leads to industrial growth also happening. So therefore, agriculture becomes a very critical part of the economy, and it is only right that the first focus of the Prime Minister has been on agriculture. Of course, there have been protests on many issues, policy issues, which was being pushed in by the government in order to reform agriculture, in order to free it up and make it more dynamic and responsive to market requirements. Those are discussions that needs to continue. Those are dialogues that needs to be held, because we need to free up agriculture. We need to make it more dynamic, and the productivity needs to continue to grow. While at the same time, we take out people from agriculture and put them into other industries, such as manufacturing and services. And hence, there needs to be a very, very sharp focus on agriculture as we move forward. I think one of the things we must understand, although we all know, is that agriculture is not just wheat and rice. We all know, but somehow the discussions just come back to wheat and rice all the time. I think many of the issues that Ramdeep Singh ji mentioned are all valid, and not just for wheat and rice, but all kinds of food. Especially, as I've mentioned in this channel umpteen number of times, that with climate change coming in, we need to store food for not 2 years, but at least 4 to 5 years, and we need to review that policy, for which our entire infrastructure needed for food storage has to dramatically change. And therefore, all the automation that Gautam just mentioned has to be put in, and not just put in into India. Then we have the expertise to export it to the rest of the world, who will also need it. So can we become a leader in food storage technology for that matter? Let me take one small example of jute. Because the rains are delayed, so the jute crop was not cropped the previous year, and therefore they grew by 1 meter extra, which made them inflexible, brittle, and therefore useless. And therefore the farmers lost out in terms of the actual jute. Also, in parallel, because of the success of the Prime Minister's Ujjwala program, which provided gas to everybody, the farmers could not sell the jute stock. Now, the jute stock sells for about 10 rupees a bundle, which gives them additional revenues. But even that did not happen because of certain other program. Now, it doesn't mean that we go and stop a successful program. We need to focus on how to help out the farmers, move them from to alternate crops in a changing ecosystem. In addition, we need to have alternative mechanisms for consuming more of their crops. Also, please do keep in mind that from 1991, where agriculture was 35% of the economy, as we sit in 2024, it's only 15% of the economy. So it will have a lower and lower share of the economy, which is what is happening in the rest of the world. In fact, globally, agriculture is 4% of the global economy. So if we look at that, we will have agriculture as being a smaller and smaller part of the entire economy. And therefore, coming back, we really need to look at whether we should have 60% of our population working on 15% or 4% of the GDP. That really needs to change. Yes, there is a problem saying that where do we take them out to? But we need to first look at what we need to do and then go ahead and solve it. For example, if we need to make the storage infrastructure, we would need people to maintain it. We would need people to build it. And that's how we need to take people out of agriculture and put them into the allied industries, the food processing. There is still so much of potential. Again, those are things that Ramdeep Singh ji mentioned. There is massive amount of potential that we have in this country, and we have still not utilized it to the fullest extent. If we can focus on what is the right thing to do in which area of India and start doing it, automatically some of the problems that we're talking about starts getting solved. Unfortunately, what is happening is that any new thing that is being brought in is seen as anti-farmer, and that is a very strange thing. For example, there is no subsidy for chicken, there is no subsidy for lamb. Those are industries which are doing extremely well. There are wealthy farmers who are raising chickens, raising many other products which are not under subsidy. Having said that, I'm not saying that we remove subsidy. My point is that every action taken to reform agriculture so that there are it grows at a faster rate should not be perceived to be anti-farmer, and therefore obviously the process has to be that you talk to all the stakeholders before you make the changes, and at some point in time you need to make sure that which are the stakeholders who are stopping the change at the cost of a larger number of farmers getting impacted. In terms of its impact on economy, as I mentioned, it's extremely deep. If we do not have a robust primary industry, which is and agriculture is one of the two primary industries, other being mining, agriculture is going to drive the rest of the economy. If we don't have food to eat, we can't buy fancy cars and build fancy homes and so on and so forth. It is fundamental. It's an inelastic product. We cannot live without food, no matter how much the cost is. We will pay for it, and therefore, food inflation is very, very critical in driving the overall inflation. For a second, we should not undermine the importance of agriculture as a critical sector of the overall economy. And therefore, we need to plod along in terms of figuring out how to free it up, how to make it better. I think there are quite a few suggestions from Chandrasekhar Singh. I think many of them made a lot of sense, and we need to look at that. There won't be a single magic bullet that will solve the entire agriculture issue.